First up, we have a distribution title from Limited Run Games, and I picked it up because the reviews looked incredible and the game looked pretty amazing. It's on the Switch, and it's Panzer Paladin. This is one of those modern games that takes a swing at the whole 8-bit art style and tries to incorporate modern mechanics into it. You play as this android named Flame, and you pilot this mech, and you try to you're trying to save humanity from some demonic invasion, and you travel through the United States and Mexico and Greece and Russia and Japan and more as you take down a bunch of enemies in your standard sort of side scroller. The game is heavily influenced by Mega Man. You can select the stages you want to play in any order. And it also has some really strong Blaster Master influences because you can get out of your mech and battle on foot, and you have to solve some little minor puzzles and some platforming sections while you're, playing as the android who's outside of her mech. And you can even see that the android uses a whip, so there's some Castlevania influences in there as well. It even brings back some DuckTales influences because you can do this downward thrust. And it's obvious that the developers really had a love for these classic 8-bit games because they wear their influence on their sleeve without a doubt. While it does draw its influences from a bunch of great games, it feels like it just picks one little element from each one of them to kind of incorporate into the game. And really, in my opinion, it sort of just thins out the experience. There's this weapon collecting mechanic that's supposed to be the big draw of the game, but ultimately it falls pretty flat. The way it works is the enemies drop weapons, and there are also weapons hidden around the stages that replace your rapidly breaking weapons. And each of these have their own stats and abilities and reaches and move sets, and you can hold down a button combination to explode them and cast some sort of magic spell, for lack of a better way to describe it. Any of these weapons you collect over 4 are sent back to your vault, and you can trade them in between stages to upgrade your health. But you can only do this 5 times, so really it's not a very in-depth mechanic, and I was able to upgrade my health almost after every single stage up until I hit the maximum of 5. It's a cool idea, but a lot of the weapons feel pretty much the same other than just the damage and reach of them. And I honestly found it to be more of an inconvenience than a feature. You can see that the 8-bit style graphics in this game are absolutely incredible. The parallax scrolling is amazing, the art direction, the color usage, the sprite work. It's some of the best I've ever seen in one of these 8-bit kind of retro revival games. To go along with that, the music is really catchy and memorable, and I think the soundtrack fits perfectly with it. It really adds to the energy level of the game, which is badly needed because like I said, the stages can get pretty repetitive and boring. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. This is the 5th stage of the game. It's just repeating enemies stacked in a row that just march blindly towards you. And a lot of the game really just feels like this. It comes across as just padding itself out. And it's really bad about recycling enemies. Yeah, they incorporate some new ones here and there, but the main 5 enemies, they just keep going back to that same well over and over and over again. However, a counterpoint to that is the game really starts getting good in the last third, and it really picks up and it ramps up the challenge. And it starts feeling like one of those 8-bit games that it's so heavily inspired by. I really enjoyed the last third of this game, I have to say. It really bumped it up a few points in my opinion. I also think it's really cool that the stages are based around actual real locations in the world, and that the bosses and the themes of the stage mimic those areas in real life. So you fight Baba Yaga when you go to Russia, and Baba Yaga is a Russian mythological creature. And when you go to Greece, you're fighting Greek mythological creatures. I think that's a really cool idea, and I wish they had leaned into that a little bit more heavily. There's 17 flippin' levels in this game, and the first half of it was so boring it almost put me to sleep. I feel like they could have cut this game down to about 10 or 12 levels and kept that difficulty up like they had at the end of the game, and it would have made it a much better experience. I think that would have brought it up to a modern classic level. Panzer Paladin is a good game, but it takes a few hours till it really hits its stride, and I wish that it had just kind of started that way. It just was so boring at the beginning. It's worth a play, but it's gonna take more time than really most people are willing to put into it. There's so many better alternatives. It looks beautiful, it sounds great, it's a cool idea. The mechanics are a little shallow. Like I said, it's a little boring, but Panzer Paladin is a 7 out of 10. It's good.